Hello, Doodlebugs! It's Mary. Let's talk about watercolor techniques. How to art! I'm gonna go over some very basic watercolor brush strokes, as Sean Connery would say, and some watercolor techniques that can help you to make some really cool paintings and get to know watercolor. Now, everything I mentioned in this video is not the ultimate rule. If you do not abide by them, terrible things will not happen to you. These are just some techniques and suggestions to help you get started with watercolor and help you to get a little more familiar with it. Okay, let's get our tools together. Now, if you have no idea what you need, I've made an entire video all about watercolor tools. You can check that out. So today I'm gonna be using my watercolor palette made up of a variety of brands of paints, mostly using the Sennelier orange color from Sennelier. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm also using 3 different styles of natural hair brushes from Utrecht and Princeton and Brush Company, and of course a glass of water. And I'm gonna be painting in my watercolor sketchbook from Strathmore. Okay, let's begin with a flat wash. And the goal is to create an even field of color. Pick any old color, load up your brush with water, load it up with paint, and lay down a stroke on the paper. And you'll notice you can push and pull the paint around a little bit while it's still wet. Remember, the goal with the flat wash is to keep an even flat color. It's gonna look a little bit different when it dries. So go ahead and practice a few flat washes as you need to. You'll notice that the ratio between water to paint on your brush is gonna make a big difference. If you have more paint than water, the color is gonna come out more vibrant and rich. If you have more water than paint, the color is gonna be a little weaker. It's watered down, so it'll have a lighter look. A gradient wash is a wash that goes from light to dark. Load up your brush with water and then some paint and lay down a nice fat stroke. Go back and add a little more water to your brush, just water, and lay down another stroke connecting with the first. Go back and add a little more water to your brush and lay down another stroke, and so on and so forth. And when it's dry, it should hopefully be a nice even scale from dark to light. Flat washes and gradient washes, that's the very basics of watercolor. Play around with it, practice making these washes. It'll help you to get more familiar with your paint and with your water and what ratios get you what effects. Okay, now let's work on some specialty techniques. Dry brush. Dry brush is exactly what it sounds like. Use a brush that is mostly dry or damp and get it loaded up with paint and lay down a stroke on the page. You'll notice that it is very textured and the texture of the bristles or the paper is gonna be very apparent. Wet on wet is the very opposite of that. Load up a clean brush with clean water, just water, and lay that water on the page. Next, load up your brush with a lot of water and a lot of paint. Now try and paint on the wet area of the paper. The paint immediately starts to spread out. It bleeds, it goes wherever the water is. And this is the secret to watercolor. The paint goes where the water is. Wet on wet is a little bit tricky, but it can create some amazing effects. And let's do bleed, ooh. Load up a clean brush with clean water and lay that water on the page. Next, load up that brush with a lot of water and a lot of paint. All you need to do is tap that brush on the wet part of the page and the paint will do the rest. This is a bleed, and again, you'll notice the paint just wants to go where the water is. You can play around with adding more paint or adding more water. You can even add different colors of paint and create a tie-dye effect. It's gonna look a little bit different when it dries, so you can practice making one bleed, and while that dries, practice making another one. Layering, let's do some layers. Watercolor is naturally a transparent medium. You're basically painting with watered down paint, so it's gonna be a little see-through. Okay, let's start with a wash for our background. You can even do some wet on wet and play around to make a texture. Now let that dry, let it dry, let it dry. Once that is completely dry, make another layer. Now let that dry. Once that is completely dry, you can put another layer on top. Notice how the colors and the layers underneath start showing through. Play around with it. Try different shapes, try different colors. Salt, I like salt. Let's use salt. This is a texture effect. You can use regular plain old table salt. Make a wash on your page, and while that is still wet, sprinkle a little bit of table salt on it. Now let that dry, and you'll notice that it dries, making a really interesting starry snowflake-like pattern. Scarring. This is another subtle, cool texture technique. You can use any tool with an edge, scissors, screwdriver, a knife. You're gonna scratch the paper just a little bit, not enough pressure to tear it, but enough to leave an indentation. This is scarring the paper, and when you put a wash over those scars, when it dries up, those scars are gonna show up a little bit darker. Lift! lift. To create a lift effect, use a towel or a rag. Create a wash, and while that wash is still wet, you can use the paper towel to dab the paint up. You can use a dry towel or paper cloth. You can also use a slightly damp one. Notice how it creates a really cool cloudy effect. You can use it in your paintings to actually make clouds or other soft textures or blend your paint. You can also use it to try and dab up some errors that splatter onto your page from time to time. And finally, splatter. Load up your brush with a lot of water and a lot of paint. You can hit the brush against your finger or flick the tip of it to create a splatter effect. This is a little messy, so be careful about what you're wearing and what's around you, but it can create a really cool effect. You can splatter onto dry paper or onto wet paper. This is a little chaotic, but a really cool effect and definitely worth practicing. And those are just a handful of watercolor techniques, the very basics. Be sure to practice these. It'll help you to get familiar with the paint and to understand how to use it. It's not as crazy and chaotic as you might think it is. And remember, water is power. Where the water goes, the paint wants to be. I hope that's helpful to you. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'll try to get back to you, or maybe somebody out there who does watercolor will also pitch in and help with their advice. Be sure you're subscribed to this channel. I got more watercolor tutorials coming up, as well as drawing techniques and art videos to help get you inspired. Be sure you're following me on all the social medias at Mary Doodles, and yeah, doodle on.